My rich cousin stole my wedding date. Her goal was to ruin my wedding. I decided not to fight. I decided to watch her ruin everything herself. Every major holiday in my family goes through one house, my grandparents. Their place is huge, old, loud, and runs on rules no one questions. Thanksgiving, birthdays, 4th of July, Easter brunch, automatically at grandma and grandpa's. They call it tradition. I call it control. Everyone has a role. My mom brings dessert. My dad fixes something that's always just about to break. And me? I show up, smile, and avoid my cousin. She's my uncle's daughter. A year and a half younger than me, and she's hated me since we were toddlers. Her name's been Golden since birth. Only child, rich parents, perfect curls, and a voice that makes you want to claw your ears off. Her dad is my mom's older brother, the one who inherited the family business. My mom got a few shares. He got the title, the money, the power. And his daughter got treated like royalty while I got treated like a rough draft that never made it to print. From day one, it was her world, and we were all just props. I learned early not to give her anything. Toys, attention, praise. If I had something, she wanted it. If I said no, she screamed. And when she screamed, everyone jumped. Her mom would drag her to the bathroom and whisper yell for 30 minutes while we all sat around pretending it was normal. My grandparents said nothing. My parents, they'd look at me like, just let her have it. But I never did. I have 2 brothers. I grew up fighting for air, for space, for the last slice of pizza. You don't survive that and then roll over for a girl in pink patent leather. She hated that I wouldn't cave, still does. Anytime I got praise, school awards, soccer wins, whatever, she'd implode. Once my grandma complimented a painting I did, and my cousin accidentally spilled juice all over it. No consequences, ever. Because her dad bankrolls half the family functions. My dad works hard, we live fine, nothing flashy. Vacations once a year. Normal stuff. She gets Rome, Paris, Tokyo. Private tutors, designer clothes, new iPhone every year. My school laptop still had someone else's name scratched into it. But I kept my head down. Graduated with honors. Got into a solid college for landscape design. Loved it. Found something I was good at. Lit up every time I talked about it. My grandfather noticed. I showed him my projects once and he actually looked proud. That was the first time I felt like maybe I was allowed to exist in that house. She noticed too. Immediately jumped into the conversation. Changed the subject. Bragged about a fruit she tried in Bali. I wanted to throw my laptop at her. But I smiled. Let her ramble. My parents noticed too. Talked to my uncle once. He brushed it off. Said she was expressive. My brothers just called her annoying and moved on. I couldn't. My high school graduation came around. The whole family showed up. She did too. Sulking in the back like someone killed her cat. At the next family dinner she looked me up and down and said to her mom, loud enough for everyone, "You're not gonna let me look like that at MY graduation, right?" I stood up, ready to launch. My brother grabbed my arm like I was a toddler about to punch a wall. I sat down, ate my food, didn't look at her once. That night I swore to myself, next when I get, she doesn't get to touch it. Not with her mouth, not with her drama, not with anything. My family keeps letting her get away with everything because her parents have money. And money makes rules. But I'm done playing by theirs. College felt like finally exhaling after years of holding it in. No cousin, no fake smiles, no family power games. Just clean space and no one watching, judging, interrupting, or trying to one-up me. And I grabbed every second like it might get taken away. I signed up for landscape design track. Got a campus job in the greenhouse, volunteered to build a meditation garden behind the library. Joined the design club even though I barely had free time, because I finally had a place where no one could say I didn't belong, and I worked like hell because I wanted it, not because someone told me to. And in that chaos I met Annie. Sharp, funny, a little chaotic, zero tolerance for bullshit. We clicked like it was meant to happen. She swore a lot, called out professors when they were wrong, and made friends with everyone except the people she didn't like. And I loved her for it. She was the first person to look at me and see me. Not a comparison, not a rival, not an inconvenience. We studied together, binged crime documentaries, cried over finals, made ramen at 2 a.m. And she's the one who got me through the first semester without breaking. But then came him, out of nowhere, literally, because I wasn't even supposed to be at the damn track event. Annie had forgotten her jacket and I was just killing time. Ended up watching the last sprint like an accident. And he ran like the world had no weight. Just smooth lines and focused power, and I couldn't stop watching, couldn't breathe, couldn't look away. And then he looked back at me, not a glance, a look, a full-on caught you staring and I'm amused kind of look. And then he smiled, like it was a private joke, and I panicked so hard I turned away too fast and grabbed a water bottle like it was a lifeline, only to choke on it immediately because of course I did. And the next second I was coughing and half dying and he was behind me, thumping my back, laughing like it made his day. "You good?" And I nodded while trying not to melt into the turf, and he said, "Nice save." Then walked off like a rom-com ghost and left me there frozen and furious with myself. Annie didn't let it go for a week, and then behind my back she told him I had a thing for him because of course she did. She thought it was helpful. I thought it was a betrayal. But apparently it worked because the next week he slid into the seat next to me in the dining hall like he'd always been there, stole one of my fries like he had the right, grinned and said, "I hear you know your way around plants. Think you can save my disaster of a balcony?" And I should have said something clever, something smooth. But I just rolled my eyes and gave him my number because that was all I had left in me, and that's how it started. Texts, calls, random coffee runs, late walks across campus, long talks about nothing that felt like everything. And he remembered stuff, asked real questions, and it felt good, real, safe, like something that could actually be mine. And for once, she wasn't there to ruin it, and I didn't even care if she found out because this was mine, all mine. Graduation season rolled around and of course it was her turn, the golden child, the heir to the family attention economy, and no surprise, I was expected to attend, because, family first, show support, you're still living at home, all the usual guilt trips. So I said fine, threw on something decent, showed up with a neutral face and low expectations. And then she made her entrance like she was starring in a reboot of Cinderella set in Vegas. I'm not kidding. Her dress was full length, bedazzled to hell, some shiny champagne color that clashed with literally everything around her, and her hair. I can't explain it. It was like a three-tier cake on her head, all pinned and curled and lacquered into submission. It looked exhausting just to wear it, and the best part, the cherry on top, was her date. Some classmate in a crumpled dress shirt and 2 different colored sneakers. Like this was a school project he forgot about until 10 minutes before, and I stood there watching them pose for photos and thought, for the first time in years, I am actually glad I came, not out of love or support, but because this was peak performance art, like watching someone accidentally wear a prom dress to a skate park, and I drank that in with no shame. But of course the universe never lets me have joy without a price, because a week later was the official family celebration dinner in her honor and everyone gathered like usual at my grandparents' place, and I was just sitting there, eating and dodging her passive-aggressive digs until someone, I think it was my aunt, casually brought up that I was seeing someone, and suddenly all heads turned and the questions started, and I could literally see her flinch as the room shifted toward me, so I kept it short, said we'd been dating for a few months, he was finishing up med school, great guy. And then Grandpa, who rarely says much during meals, puts down his fork and says, "Well, we'll need to meet him soon, won't we?" And the look on her face was Oscar-worthy, that fake smile snapping for just a second, like her muscles couldn't hold the jealousy back fast enough, but she recovered, did her usual thing where she changed the topic to something expensive she bought or someplace she went, classic distraction move, except no one cared. They were too busy grilling me about when he could come over, so I said maybe 4th of July. If that works. And that's what we locked in, family barbecue, meet the parents style, low-key but important. And when the day came, I brought him, and yeah, he was nervous, but he did great, polite, helpful, made conversation with everyone, and she disappeared, like straight up vanished for over an hour, which already felt suspicious, and sure enough, later that night, while we were doing dishes he goes, "So your cousin kinda ambushed me outside the bathroom?" And I'm like, "Excuse me?" And he says she waited for him to come out, leaned in, started complimenting him, saying things like, "You're too mature for someone like her," and "You could do better," and he just walked away, didn't even respond, just left her standing there, and I thought okay, she's embarrassing, but at least it's done. Except it wasn't, because 2 days later he starts getting DMs from her, at first, just friendly, then less friendly, then straight up thirsty, like, "I know this place with amazing sushi. Let me take you," or, "Bet you'd rather be on a yacht than a picnic," and he shows me every message, every screenshot, and I'm boiling. But he handles it perfectly, just blocks her, says nothing, no drama. And we move on, until she makes a new account and tries again. Same game, same energy, and that's when he gets the idea, says, "Let me have one last word." So he invites her out, for coffee, says maybe they can talk things through, whatever she wants to hear, and she agrees. Of course, tells him to pick the spot, and he picks the sketchiest fast food place in town, one of those spots with flickering lights and half the sign missing, and then instead of going, he sends his best friend, giant dude, zero filter, leans into every cringe pickup line he can remember, flirts with her hard, loud, makes a full scene, and she loses it, throws a drink at him and storms out, blocks him on everything, and goes silent for good. No more DMs, no more weird encounters, nothing, and for the first time since childhood I feel like I won, not in a petty way, okay, maybe a little, but in a clean way, like setting a boundary with fire, and now she avoids eye contact whenever we're in the same room, which works perfectly for me, because if she can't handle being ignored, she really won't survive the next few chapters of my life. 3 years flew by like nothing, and suddenly I was in my final year of college, living with my boyfriend, juggling work, classes, deadlines, and honestly, thriving in that exhausted, caffeine-addicted kind of way. We had a rhythm, mornings were fast, nights were slow. He'd come home from work, I'd still be finishing projects. We'd eat whatever we could make in 20 minutes and crash watching something dumb on Netflix. But we were good, solid, we'd been living together a year by then, and I was stupid happy even when I was stressed. And then one night he made dinner, real dinner, like with wine and music and cloth napkins, and halfway through he stood up, fumbled with his jacket pocket, and got down on one knee like something out of a commercial, and I just stared at him, like is this happening? And he said, wanna make this forever? And yeah, I said yes. Of course I said yes. We kissed, cried, called our parents. My mom shrieked, his dad clapped like a coach at the Super Bowl, and everything felt big and light and real, and we picked a date, found a venue, nothing over the top, just us and the people we actually liked, 45 guests, food trucks, live music, that was the plan, and then it started, the texts, the calls, RSVPs coming in, family excited, cousins offering to help. My brothers were making ridiculous suggestions about showing up to the wedding in flash suits or dressed as Darth Vader, ideas that, of course, got them immediately smacked down by mom. My dad asking what tie to wear, and I let myself believe for once that this thing was really mine, that no one was going to screw it up, until I got a text from my aunt with 5 words, "Did you hear about her?" And I already knew what it was, I felt it in my gut, and sure enough, an hour later, a formal wedding invitation showed up. Not to my wedding, of course, but to my cousin's, same day, same time, different city, 2 hours apart, zero chance of overlap, and I swear to God my heart dropped out of my body, because it was obvious, it wasn't a coincidence, this was strategic, this was war. Her RSVP to my life was always, me too but louder, and now she was trying to swallow the whole day, so I called my parents. My dad went ballistic. My mom tried to be diplomatic until she called her brother and he basically told her to be happy for both daughters. Like this wasn't the most obvious act of sabotage in family history. My brothers were ready to show up and flip tables. And meanwhile I'm just standing in the kitchen holding this stupid gold-foiled invitation with her smug face probably mentally printed inside. And I snapped, grabbed my phone, hit record, and said, "Thanks for the invite," in the sweetest voice I could fake, then lit the damn thing on fire and watched it curl into ash on our balcony while my boyfriend stood behind me quietly, just letting me have that moment. And I laughed, I really did, until later that night when I couldn't sleep, just lying in bed imagining my wedding half empty, folding chairs with nobody in them, empty wine glasses, awkward silences, and I cried, quietly at first, then full body sobs, because it wasn't fair. I had done everything right, planned ahead, chose peace, stayed in my lane, and she still couldn't let me have it. And my fiancé woke up, pulled me into him, and whispered, "She can't ruin this unless you let her." And I wanted to believe that so bad. And the next morning I came downstairs to find my future father-in-law making a tray of appetizers and shouting, "If half the guests cancel, I'll eat double, no problem." And my little brother teaching our corgi to carry fake rings, and my older brother showing me a playlist labeled emergency hype songs, and I realized, even if 10 people show up, they'll be the right 10, and maybe that's enough, maybe it always was. Of course most of the relatives bailed on our wedding, no shock there. The second my cousin set her date on the same day and booked a ballroom with a guest list twice the size, the passive-aggressive excuses started rolling in like clockwork. We wish we could be there, conflicting plans, hope it's beautiful, yeah right, but what actually stung wasn't that. It was the silence from my grandparents. No RSVP, no call, no text, nothing, not even a fake excuse, just a hole where they should have been. And honestly I told myself I didn't care, but I kept checking my phone like it owed me closure, until I finally gave up, buried the hope, and focused on what I did have. Why? Because my brothers being total idiots, proposing the dumbest crap like rolling me down the aisle on a platform like a wedding cake while our corgi pulled the cart and fake snow got blasted over my head. and when they actually harnessed the dog to a rolling chair to demo the idea, Mom nearly threw a shoe at them, but I laughed so hard I almost forgot to cry. And that kind of set the tone. Ridiculous, low-stakes chaos that somehow made everything feel lighter, even with my chest still tight, over who wouldn't be there. And then the day came, early July heat, tiny venue outside the city, 45 seats, 32 people, folding chairs, wildflowers in jam jars, nothing over the top but everything real. My little brother's corgi was the ring bearer in a velvet bow tie and stole the show until my fiancé cried during the vows and took the crown for most unexpected emotion. And we were just about to cut the cake when the door creaked open and you could feel the oxygen leave the room. It was like time snapped, because my grandparents walked in. Not rushed or sheepish, just calmly, hand in hand, like it was always the plan, and you could hear people whispering, a fork hit a plate. My mom looked genuinely shocked when she saw her parents walk in, like full-on confusion on her face. Probably because she assumed they had gone to my cousin's wedding instead. Grandpa saying they got turned around with the GPS and couldn't find the venue for a while. But honestly, I didn't care what excuse he gave. I was just stupidly happy they were there. Because then my grandfather crossed the room and hugged me like he hadn't missed a second, like none of the silence had even happened. And he said, "You deserve this, I'm proud of you." And I broke, fully broke, cried right into his shirt while everyone watched and pretended not to. And then he turned to my husband with this deadly serious face and went, "If you hurt her, I'll make sure no one ever finds the body. Got it?" And that got a full laugh out of everyone, including my husband, who swore he got chills. And then the formal part ended, and something amazing happened. The whole thing just cracked open into something better. Someone ordered 20 pizzas, someone else dragged out a Bluetooth speaker, people kicked off their shoes and played Uno and charades and shouted over each other like we were kids again. And the caterer left hours ago, but no one cared. We had junk food and laughter and the kind of messy, honest joy that no ballroom could buy. And for the first time in forever, I wasn't performing or surviving or biting my tongue. I was just living, surrounded by the people who showed up, really showed up. And the only thought in my head was, this is mine, finally, completely mine, and no one can take it. 2 days after the wedding we flew to Venice, first real trip in years. And honestly, I didn't think about her once until the third night, when I made the mistake of opening Facebook, just to check messages from my boss. And the first thing that popped up was her wedding photos, perfectly lit, meticulously edited, all white orchids and glassware and gold chairs and those stupid matching bridesmaid robes. But what stood out more than any of it was the absolute emotional vacuum behind their eyes. The dead smiles, her husband's stiff posture, her hand on his arm like it had been placed there by a stylist instead of a person. And for a second I almost pitied her, except I didn't, because she'd orchestrated every part of that disaster, and what she got was exactly what she asked for. I didn't say anything to my husband, just locked the phone, went outside to the terrace, breathed in that night air and told myself again, this is my life now, not hers, not theirs, mine. A couple days later I called my mom just to check in, and she told me the fallout. Apparently my uncle exploded when he found out our grandparents had skipped his daughter's wedding and came to mine. He felt humiliated, said it was an insult, said it showed who the family really valued, and Grandpa didn't hold back. He told him point blank, we chose to go where love is, not spectacle, and that was it. Full-on family Cold War. For months they didn't speak, didn't visit. My cousin ghosted everyone, and I could've danced from the satisfaction. But I didn't even say, I told you so. I just kept living. I started using my married name full-time, made it official everywhere, new ID, new bank card, new signature. It was symbolic, but it helped, like closing a door and locking it. And then a year later I heard from Annie, who's still close with someone in that circle, and she just casually dropped it. Oh, did you hear? Your cousin's getting divorced. And I swear to God my only reaction was a blink, not even a shrug, because at that point it wasn't news. It was inevitable. Apparently the guy couldn't stand the pressure, the performative bullshit, the constant need to play perfect, and honestly who could blame him? And no, I didn't dig for details, didn't stalk his socials, didn't bring it up to my family. I didn't care. I had nothing to prove, no gloating left in me, just peace. By then I was deep into planning our next trip, thinking about house hunting, getting ready to tell my husband we should start trying soon, and that was it. No comeback, no revenge, just forward. Life moved on without fireworks, just quiet, steady days turning into weeks. My uncle and his wife stopped showing up at the usual family dinners at my grandparents' house, no explanations, and for a while, no calls, just silence, and nobody asked too many questions. But when they did come back, almost exactly 12 months later, it was different, like something had cracked and they were trying to pretend it hadn't. Like we were all supposed to pick up where we left off, but their eyes didn't shine the same way, their jokes didn't land, their smiles were too forced, and the weirdest part was how nobody said anything about her, not directly, no, how's she doing, or heard from her lately, like she'd been quietly erased, and I didn't ask either, but I heard things anyway, from cousins, from my mom in whispers when she thought I wasn't listening. She's not working steady, keeps changing jobs, says nothing feels right. Moved apartments 3 times, maybe 4, some guy she dated bailed. After a month, soul-searching or spiraling, no one was really sure. But what stuck with me was that no one spoke her name like they used to, not like she was the crown jewel anymore, more like she was an uncomfortable memory everyone was trying to outgrow. And I didn't gloat, didn't even enjoy it the way I thought I might. It just felt distant, like watching something collapse from a plane window, too far gone to mean anything now. Meanwhile, my life was getting louder in the best ways. My husband and I moved into our new place, started building routines, little rituals that made the days feel hours. And then one day I took a test and it changed everything. I was pregnant, and when I told him, he froze for half a second, then hugged me so tight I couldn't breathe. And we laughed and cried and stared at that tiny pink line like it was magic. At the next family dinner I wore a soft sweater that made the bump visible just enough and didn't say a word, waited for someone else to notice, and it was my grandpa who did. Halfway through dessert, when he leaned over and rested his hand gently on my stomach and looked at me like I just brought the sun to the table, and I could have fallen apart right then, but I just smiled, and he whispered, "You're gonna be such a good mom," and that was it. I knew I didn't need to win anymore. I didn't need to prove or fight or drag old pain back to the surface. I had nothing to reclaim because I had everything that mattered. This wasn't about love earned anymore. It was about love built, quiet and real, and mine. My son turned 1 and we drove out to see my grandfather. Just the 3 of us, me, my husband, and this tiny human we somehow created. And when we got there, he was already waiting on the porch like he always used to. Same sweater, same watch, same smile that made everything slow down. And the moment he saw us, especially the baby, he lit up in a way I hadn't seen since I was a kid myself. Took him in his arms like it was the most natural thing in the world, made stupid faces, those exaggerated old man noises, and my son laughed so hard he hiccuped, and we stayed there for hours, just sitting in the living room, watching generations loop together like thread. And at some point, when it got quiet, and the baby had finally passed out on my chest, my grandfather looked at me, really looked, and said, "You built your own house. That's the whole point." And something about the way he said it hit different, like it cracked open a space inside me that had always been clenched shut. And I knew he didn't just mean walls and a roof. He meant this life, this peace, this version of me that didn't need approval, didn't need permission, didn't need to win anymore to feel worthy. And I looked at him and said thank you, not for the words but for seeing me. And later, on the way home, I couldn't stop thinking about what I want for myself, what I want to become, and it wasn't power or money or anyone's jealousy. I want to be safe to come home to. I want to be the kind of woman people feel lighter around. I want my son to grow up knowing what love sounds like in everyday silence. I want the people I love to feel like they can fall apart around me and not get punished for it. And most of all, I want to be a home, not a house, not a role, not a shadow anyone's living in, but a place where people want to return to, just because it feels better there. And maybe that's what healing really is, not revenge or proving anyone wrong, but choosing softness without weakness, holding your own life in your hands and saying, I like it here, and I don't need anyone else to validate that. Subscribe, hit the like button, and explore more fascinating stories.